Hello, everyone. It has been about a month. It's been about a while. It's been about a while. It's been a while. Start of 2022 was a bit crazy. A lot of things happening. But I decided, we need a Tekken tips, or I need to record one because uh, I've been working a lot on this recently in terms of how I engage with Tekken, and I just kind of want to share this with you guys, um, or you all, I should say. So prior to, or for about 3 years of Tekken 7, when I would watch top level matches, so we're talking about like, grand finals of majors, or just international level players, I did so somewhat passively in the sense that, yes, I was paying attention and I was trying to understand what's going on, but like these moments of like, oh my god, that was so sick, or like these moments of, oh, I fully recognized exactly what happened, and my brain gave me some dopamine, spectator shot. They were very rare. Or it's not that they were rare, it's just that, anyone watching, no matter their familiarity with Tekken, as long as it's, at a pretty basic level, would get hype about these moments, right? Or would understand the moments, and why they were interesting, or like what the meaning behind them was, right? Classic example, 2017 TWT Finals, Qdons versus Saint, right? The rage art heard around the world, where there's 1 second left, Saint goes for like down forward 1-1 or 1-2 or whatever, and Kudon's rage arts in between, right? Everyone pretty much, as long as you have a basic understanding of Tekken, knows why that was sick, and knows why that was awesome, and knows that it was a huge mistake by Saint, and all that stuff, right? But when that goes on for 3 years, and that's the only level at which you even analyze matches after the fact, you say, I'm going to analyze matches, and you still only pick up on that level of the game. At least that was my case. Then it's time to start thinking about maybe changing how you analyze these matches. Again, as a spectator, like when you're watching, whatever. But if you do want to seriously analyze a match and go back and rewatch it, and kind of go situation by situation, um, I think it's very hard to digest, at least me personally, without some strategy, right? So if I just go in there and I'm going to be like, I'm going to watch this and really, really focus, I think I personally miss out on a lot of stuff, right? So in terms of the mind games going on, I'll maybe pick up on one mix-up scenario or one or two mix-up scenarios, and I won't get that much out of it because the ones that I'll pick up on are the most obvious and the most salient ones because I'm just kind of watching the match. So today I just kind of want to introduce and analyze an analysis strategy that has not only made these matches more digestible for me, but they've given me a similar sensation of when you're actually playing in a match and your brain is working and you're thinking about all these things, right? That was really hard for me getting from watching before. Like I never felt like I was getting any amount of the same information that the players were, right? Because when you're playing Tekken, you're 100% forced to think about all these things, and you're much more likely to understand what your opponent's doing because you're the one who's making the decisions that your opponent has to react to, right? There's no intermediary, you know, of watching. It's like you are making the decisions. So basically, what this tip is to focus on literally one part of the match, or one move, or one aspect of the match, and view the entire match through that lens. Just think about it the whole time. Just that is all you're looking for. That is all you're thinking about. How can you contextualize literally every situation in the match with that thing in mind? So let's first actually break down the different levels at which you can do this, and then let's go through a concrete example. So there's the most basic level at which you do this, which is what I do 99% of the time when I'm watching a pro match and want to get something out of it is just pick a move, right? You have two characters. Who do you want to watch, and what move do you want to look out for? I highly recommend picking a move that you know you're gonna see, right? And you know you're gonna see it a lot, right? So if you're gonna watch, you know, uh, uh, I don't know, a Devil Jin player, down back 1+2, the thing where it's like Hadouken, like he charges that thing. Yeah, you can think about that move, but to be honest, the players probably aren't thinking much about that move, right? Because the utility of that move is so limited that to utilize it in a mind game would require essentially a very long set or a huge history between players because otherwise it's just a bit too risky, right? Without a serious understanding of your opponent and like the established mind games that you know are quote unquote good, it's really not going to be that relevant. Um, and then we can contrast that to, let's say, Anna and Anna's full crouch sweep, right? Anna's full crouch sweep, full crouch down forward two, is a huge part of most Anna's game plans. And the threat of that move, you can view almost the entire match based on the threat of that move, or based on just getting into the full crouch mix up. But seriously, that one move, you can view so much of the match through the lens, is what I want to say, through the lens of that move. And so, above moves, you can think about timing mix-ups. And again, what timing means to you may differ, but that kind of requires a little bit more of a longer horizon. So you have to think back about what's happened in the past quite a little bit more than with move choice. Because with move choice, right, obviously, you have to think about the past, but typically it's only like, okay, what did my opponent do last time they used that move? Or what did my opponent do 2 times ago? And you'll get a pretty good idea of a mind game. But with timing, it's kind of like, what's my opponent doing literally the entire set in the past, pretty much, and what have they been doing? So it's a little bit more complicated, I would say. And obviously, depending on how you view timing, it might not be as obvious as seeing a move or thinking about the threat of a move. And then above that, like kind of level three in this kind of analysis, you can combine maybe two things. So you can think about two moves, or you could think about one player's move and an opponent's response to that move. And I think just breaking it down to literally just one move can, for me at least, make the match so much more digestible and actually feel like I'm inside of a top player's head. Because without this, it's just so hard to get in the mindset of that player because one, you're not playing Tekken, and two, it's unlikely that you have the same level of understanding as that player, especially in the matchup against someone they've played before, right? So the match I want to present to you, um, I will link it in the description. I'm just going to kind of talk about it pretty loosely here, but I do highly encourage you to go check it out after this episode and after we talk about it for a little bit. So it's going to be Atif Butt versus Tanvir. Excuse me for if I get the pronunciations wrong. Tanvir being Tanveer, I believe. And so for those who don't know Atif, he is Arslan's training partner, his main training partner. So Arslan being, the best player in the world, pretty unequivocally, and Atif's his main training partner. He's one of the few people who can genuinely get games on Arslan and genuinely have like interesting sets. He's also a Tokyo Masters champion, so has won majors, international majors. And Tanvir is maybe a top five favorite player of mine. I absolutely love Tanvir's game. I believe he's pretty young. I'm not sure the exact age. But one of the things I think is sick about Tanvir is he has the second least um, vertical movement or horizontal movement, I should say, that I have ever seen from a top player. And by that I mean the least amount of using Korean backdashing is essentially what I mean, right? Because he does use backdashing very effectively, But when he does use Korean backdashing, it's at most, literally at most one, and it is so slow. But most matches, most rounds, he doesn't even use it. The only player who uses it less than him that I can think of is Justice, the Korean Paul player. But Justice is using Paul, so, you know, why backdash when you can Death Fist or when you can Demo Man? But Tanvir is using Claudio, and a lot of Claudio players typically like to backdash to set up things like hop kick whiffs, to set up things like running two Superman punch, to set up things like running three, right? Tanvir is just like, I'm not afraid of being in the range where I know my moves will hit. And that's actually the range I want to be in and build my entire game out of pretty much out of this. And is it optimal, right? Is that the best strategy? I think we know from most players currently no, right? Currently that strategy is not good enough to be the best player in the world. But is it good enough to get a game off Atif? Is it good enough to actually compete and make Atif think with Steve, who's arguably his second best character, probably his second best character, right? Yes. And how does he do that? It's purely through mind games. And it's purely through mind games such as the one he uses with his back one, right? So Claudio back one, homing 18 frames, -5 on block, with pushback, perfect range for a hop kick, knockdown on hit. In my opinion, the third best move in the game, which I know is will probably cause some eyebrow raising. But in my opinion, this is like the third or 100% top 10, maybe top 5. For me, it's just absurd. And it's so good. It's so good that when you watch this match through the lens of back one, you're thinking, okay, when is back one coming? Why is back one coming? When back one does come, what's the interaction afterwards? How has Tanvir changed his usage of back one over time? Also, I'm gonna use the pronoun his, um, or I'll try to use the pronoun them, but I might use the pronoun his. Excuse me if I get that wrong. Um, how does Tanvir use back one just compared to the last time Tanvir used back one? What about its spacing towards the wall, right? How does wall positioning change back one? How does Tanvir use back one defensively versus offensively, right? Having this kind of mindset, you can watch the entire game and pick up on so much. You can put yourself in the match. Even if you're not one of the players, you can put yourself in the, space in between their minds in which they're communicating and understand back one solely, or understand their mind games solely through back one, right? And so I have some notes on some of the things I noticed with Tanvir's uses of back one, and I just kind of want to share them a bit. And then, after this episode, if you watch the match and you decide to, watch the match and analyze it through Tanvir's back one, maybe you'll see some of the same things, right? So naturally, of course, Tanvir's going to use it to keep Ati from stepping much, right? Because Tanvir knows down forward three can get stepped. Tanvir knows, his jabs can get stepped, right? And so in a lot of situations where you think, oh, I might use something like a down forward three or just maybe something like a down forward four, a more linear move, that's when Tanvir, especially early in the set, will use the back one. And Atif will either get hit or, sidestep block or get counter hit. But the initial usage of Tanvir's back one was just to say, don't step. Just don't do that. After back one, there is a 20-page essay amount of mind games after back one in this set. So early on, Tanvir essentially does back one, sidestep left duck. So he's -5, he's doing sidestep left duck. Well, what is that actually gonna beat? Well, it'll beat Steve's back one. He evades Steve's back one with the sidestep left, and looks for whiff punish opportunities, or in some cases just goes hard read and tries to get a whiff punish, right? Because back one's hard to whiff punish. Now note, Atif obviously picks up on this, and when you're looking at the game through back one, it's inevitable that you're going to notice what Atif's doing as well in response to back one. And so after Atif notices this, boom, down forward two immediately, catches Tanvir on the sidestep. And I think one of the things that kind of is so impressive about Atif is, okay, Atif did down forward two to catch Tanvir's sidestep, and you're gonna think, okay, now what's Atif thinking? Atif is thinking, oh, okay, I've stopped that behavior, right? I've done it, right? Tanvir knows, okay, I'm not gonna do that because I'm gonna get hit. But Atif says, no, you have to show me, you have to prove to me that you know what just happened in that interaction, right? And a couple blocked back ones later, what happens? Well, Atif is in rage. Tanvir does back one, sidestep left. You know what destroys that? Steve's rage drive. And not only does it destroy that, Atif got the wall splat angle where Sonic Fang is gonna resplat him 3 times. So essentially, Tanvir just got absolutely blown up for being one adaptation step slower than Atif, which again is why Atif is better than Tanvir, or one of the reasons. But it is good to just note that we're still looking at the game through this one move, but now we're going to start incorporating, Atif's reactions as well. So after this, after getting hit with this rage drive, I think the next like few back ones, Tanvir just straight up blocks or backdashes. And this is a simple, digestible interaction. We just went over a legit mind game, right? We just went over a mind game that's happening at the highest level that is very digestible. But if you're just watching that match, looking for hype moments and looking for crazy combos and trying to analyze it through crazy tech, you're probably going to miss that interaction, right? Again, I'm sure, super high level players who are better than me are like, nah, brah, I knew that. Or I saw that interaction first time. And I'm like, that's fine. That's fair enough. I'm just saying for me personally, you know, digesting the matches like this, and it also helps me get better, right? Because I learn from these matches and I'm like, what if I make a game plan solely based around the lens of a move, right? So for example, Laws forward 1+2. Or for example, Lily down forward 3, right? Get those plus frames, right? These big counter hit launching moves, right? So then the next thing that was kind of interesting, right, is Tanvir at the wall didn't use back one that much, right? As much as you might think, right? You're like, at the wall, back one? Are you kidding me? Wall splat? Well, Tanvir simply used the threat of back one, right? Once you start watching the game through the lens of back one, you're like, oh my god, I'm I'm scared of back one right now. And there's a slight downside to using back one at the wall, right? Because when it gets blocked, it does give Atif an opportunity to maybe sidestep block to get away from the wall. But that fear of the back one wall splat allows Tanvir to start using down forward 3. The down forward 3 string from Claudio, for those who don't know, down forward 3-1 is mid -12 wall splat, but startup is 14 frames and it's 2 hits, right? So you can just throw out that down forward 3, 14 frames. It doesn't necessarily keep Atif from stepping by itself, but because it has a follow up, there's kind of like, oh, I have to think about that. And then down forward 2 is mid high, natural hit combo, doesn't wall splat, or down forward 3-2 doesn't wall splat mid high, but you're still going to get some damage from it. And that mix up of finishing the string, not finishing the string, which part of the string do I do, is not even close to as powerful without the fear of stepping because of back one, right? All right, I'm almost done, I promise. I know this was a long Tekken talk, or Tekken tips. the last couple things I'll say about this that I think are worth of noting. He almost never whiffs it, right? Back one has almost never whiffed, and I think one of the things that you can take away from that is Tanvir themselves are partially looking at the game through back one because it's such a powerful tool and Claudio's best move, right? That's and then the last note I have, to kind of close out the back one situation was the first time Tanvir presses a button after back one that isn't a hop kick, because back one and hop kick is a classic setup. For those who are curious, Atif did not get hit by that. But the first time he genuinely presses a button is like a non-hard read check or a non-high risk check is by the third match. By the third match, in the third match, he does back one into jabs because he has enough data now and he has enough mind games with the teeth to know that that was a pretty safe option because he's already locked down. He's already locked out the back one, right? Through his sidestep left duck after back one being blocked. So that was a pretty lengthy example, but I think I want to encourage viewers who are interested in this to go watch the match and watch it through the lens of back one and the way I've talked about. And then if that works really well and you really thought you got a lot out of it, as I have, maybe try and watch it from a Teef's point of view with down forward two, with Steve's down forward two, or Steve's back one, and just see how your perspective on the match starts to develop and starts to change from both players' point of views. And how can you take those mind games and implement it into your own game? How can you start building game plans around moves in this kind of very centralized, way? And so that's kind of the main tip I wanted to just get out there of, making these top level matches more digestible and just a little bit easier to get into the actual mind game side of things, right? Because a lot of situations where it's like, oh, nice punish, or oh, that was some sick Twitter tech, or oh, that's -9, so they didn't press after, or maybe they did, which would be interesting. That kind of stuff. I think you'll pick up on just as you get better at Tekken, and I think it's slightly easier to pick up on. But the mind games of moves, the mind games of timings, the mind games of spacing, I think that requires a little bit more analysis and a little bit more, situating yourself in the context of a certain element of the match. So that was pretty much it. Again, definitely check out the match. I think it's really interesting. Again, Atif is better than Tanvir, definitively. So it's not a particularly close match, but you still can pick up on the mind games at play. Thank you very much for listening. Again, I apologize for the slightly longer episode. Have a safe, time. I guess. Thank you.